and welcome to another episode of Joe Sent Me. My name is Joe and I am your host for today. Today we're going to talk about Ramon Monegal fragrances. I got a chance to try out quite a few of his fragrances. It was quite a variety, quite some special things, and some things that were good, some things that I didn't really care for. However, they are all very special, they're all very high quality, and they are all eau de parfum. Most of the ones that I tried are unisex, and I want to tell you about my experience with 10 of the fragrances that I tried out. So here we go. On day one, I tried out Mon Patchouli. This is a very sophisticated fragrance that is considered to be a mossy, woody, crisp, and watery fragrance. I thought this was one of my favorite, to start with number one being one of my favorites. That kind of leaves you wondering what's left. But yes, this happened to be one of my favorites. It is a unisex one. The performance on this thing was fantastic, by the way. This thing lasted me all day long. In fact, all of them lasted me at least 12 hours. And the silage was amazing. Also, the projection was amazing. I know that I had a scent trail because people were commenting, and they were commenting in a good way, by the way. They were complimenting me. So there was a lot of good ones that I got good compliments on. So whenever I think of patchouli, by the way, I usually think of the hippie, stinky patchouli. This patchouli is blended very well, and it is far from it. In fact, this is considered to be more of a minty patchouli than it is to be a stinky hippie patchouli. It was sweet, it was also fresh, it was very different, but also very pleasant. And I could tell this is going to be the kind of fragrance that you'd wear when you want to feel really good. And it's a very sophisticated, nice fragrance, both for men and women. I think this is one of their best fragrances. I hope after you watch this video you'd go and check it out at your local Neiman Marcus and or Nordstrom, wherever it's available. Definitely check this one out for sure. Alright, then on day two I wore Dry Wood. The first thing you get off the bat is the black pepper and the mossiness. Now the black pepper goes away quickly, the mossiness sticks around. This one here is kind of a wet, damp, mossiness smelling one, even though it's considered dry wood. That's kind of an interesting one because mossy scents typically are associated with wet and green scents. But I will tell you, when you wear this thing, you're definitely going to feel like you're in a forest. You're going to feel like you can smell the wet moss around you. This thing does a really fantastic job of taking you there. Ramon's inspiration for this is that he believes that wood is a symbol of strength and stability and power. So because of that, he made it so that you can feel the strength and the power of wood through this fragrance. So just, you know, to Ramon's philosophies on his fragrances are really great. I enjoy reading his inspiration and learning a little bit about what drove him to create the scent. You have a new appreciation, by the way, for the artist when you understand where they're coming from. And in other ways, you can also see where they're going when you understand where they came from. So even though this wasn't my favorite fragrance, it did a very good job of taking you there, right where Ramon wanted you to be. On day three, I wore Entre Naranje. Naranje, I believe, are oranges, and this is exactly what this was. This was an orange blossom explosion. Very fresh, also very citrusy, floral, and great for the summer. The three notes that dominate on this are the neroli, the orange blossom, and mandarin, and they stick around for the whole time. In the dry down though, you do have a vanilla, you also have some amber, and you have some patchouli. Now, I really didn't get much of that towards the end because the notes initially on the front end were a little stronger than the notes on the back end. However, I'm sure that they were there. It didn't dry down the way I thought it was gonna dry down, even though it said it had the vanilla and it had the amber and the patchouli. I was hoping for a sweeter, warmer dry down. On day 4, I wore Next to Me, which is actually labeled as Dubai Next to Me, but the packaging didn't say the word Dubai. I have a feeling it is the same fragrance. This fragrance is a Bloomingdale's exclusive fragrance, and I thought this one was fantastic. By the way, this one got me the most compliments out of all of them, and this is definitely on my top few that I liked here. So Dubai Next to Me, fantastic fragrance, and as you can imagine, being that it is Dubai, we have some notes that are in there that are from that region of the world. This opens up with Indian oud. We got saffron and jasmine. You definitely get the saffron in this. You can totally smell that in the oud. And then you get the sandalwood and you get the frankincense and other things. This fragrance happens to be the one that I had probably the most ingredients from around the world. I felt like I was going around the world just reading the ingredients. We have so many different countries that are represented in this fragrance that I thought it was a fantastic way to kind of take a trip around the world without having to take a trip around the world. Wonderful fragrance. Highly recommend it if you can find it. Highly recommend it. This is very, very classy. Very, very nice fragrance. On day 5, I wore Agar Musk. Agar being the tree in which oud comes from, and of course it was a musk fragrance, so it was a combination of agar and musk, hence the name Agar Musk. This fragrance reminded me most of Creed's Royal Oud, and you'll see why when you smell it. It is very, very similar to that. In fact, I looked up the notes on both of them and there were some similarities. The two ingredients that were the similar ones happened to be the ones that stood out the most in this, which were the Indian oud and Tonkin musk. Both of those ingredients were the two most predominant ingredients in this fragrance, and they happen to also be the two most predominant ingredients in Royal Oud. But both of these ingredients also have their differences because Royal Oud starts off very differently, has a lot of different ingredients in it. This one as well, but for the most part, the two that stick out the most happen to be the ones that smell very similar. I wouldn't say this is a clone, neither of them are clones of each other, but they do smell very similar, and I am a fan of Royal Oud, therefore I'm also a fan of Agar Musk. And if you're looking for something other than Creed, then this is definitely a great alternative, and I think lasted a long time and is a fantastic way to go if you're looking for an Agar Musk based fragrance. So now we go to day 6, 7, and 8, and I'm going to go through these individually, but I will tell you that these 3 are 3 fragrances that are brand new for 2017. In fact, these are not even on his website. I had to look up some of these images online to find out what these bottles look like. So I'm going to go over the oud collection now on day 6, 7, and 8. These were very, very different and special. On day 6, I wore Soul of Oud. This fragrance is oud as the epitome of oud. It is very high quality and is very expensive oud, and these are ouds from several locations around the world. This oud fragrance was very similar to me to the Spirit of Dubai's oud fragrance, but I believe it cost a fraction of the price of the Spirit of Dubai, but it was extremely similar. It might have not been as harsh as the one from Spirit of Dubai, but there was a lot of similarities. And I also had an appreciation, by the way, for the Spirit of Dubai later, because when I first smelled the Spirit of Dubai oud, that was a bit much for me, and I didn't realize what a good oud was until I smelled that. Now I went to this few weeks later, and I'm smelling this, and it reminded me, the first thing it reminded me of was the Spirit of Dubai's oud, but then it reminded me why it is so good. And so that's a compliment to both brands, by the way, because both of them use only the purest and the best oud ever. And I will say it will get very interesting on the front. When you first smell this oud, you're probably going to be turned off by it, but it dries down into something very fantastic. I mean, it really is high quality. It is the finest ouds that you can get. Definitely, if you could find these when these come out, I recommend you check them out, because this is one of the finest ouds I've ever smelled. Day 7, I wore Ocean Oud. This unfortunately was my least favorite oud of the entire collection. It was one of the strangest ouds I've ever worn because it wasn't as oudy as you'd expect it to be. It actually reminded me more of a cedar or leather-based fragrance The oud is definitely not on the forefront of this one. I think if there is oud in this, it's very subtle. You know, it's not the start to finish kind of oud. There is oud in this for sure, but it's just not the strongest. And this one is a cedary, leathery, kind of wet sea salt, seawater kind of ish kind of thing going on. Not my favorite oud, but definitely if you're into that kind of stuff, I would recommend you trying it before you buy it. This is very different. So I definitely recommend you trying before you buy. Last on the 3 ouds that I wore on day 8, I wore Oud on Fire. And this was exactly that. This was a very peppery, very spicy oud to start, with the black pepper and the cinnamon on the front end. And this was my second favorite oud from the collection. And it happened to be very, very nice. It dried down with a very nice cinnamony, kind of oudy spice thing going on. I thought it was a fantastic one. I definitely recommend you check out this. I definitely recommend you check out this one, see what you think of it, and let me know what you think. On day 9, I wore Bravo. Bravo. Bravo was not Bravo to me. Bravo to me, I feel like clapping and saying Bravo. No, this one was not Bravo to me. I'm sorry. The idea is very neat, but I just am not a fan of smoke flavored perfumes. This is very, very much a smoke and leather type perfume. And I literally smell like I was by a campfire and my clothing had been smoked the whole time. And just not a fan of it. It's not my thing. You might like it. You may think it's interesting. I would definitely go and check it out so you can see what I'm saying. But Bravo just unfortunately didn't impress me. It was just too weird for me. But, you know, who knows? You might like it. And like I said, you have to try these things to see where it sits on you. So there you go. That's Bravo. On day 10, I wore Cotton Musk. So I'm not into florals. I'm still not into florals, but I will say this was a very soft white floral, very pleasant to wear, leans more towards the feminine than it does the masculine, I thought, but it definitely is a good summer spring scent. Might even be considered a great wedding scent because it's just a very nice light white floral, and I do think this could definitely make a good wedding scent for sure. Definitely check it out. And last but not least, Kiss My Name is day 11. I wore that, Kiss My Name, and this is again floral from top to bottom. Very, very floral. Again, I'm not a fan of florals, but it is, if you're into florals, I definitely recommend you checking out Kiss My Name. Just a lot going on inside of this fragrance, and I'll include the notes, of course, so you can see what's inside. Definitely recommended for the women, not so much for the men, even though this is a unisex fragrance. I do recommend this one highly if you are a floral lover, or if you're into the botanical smelling perfumes, or if you just want a very high quality floral. Some people say that they're allergic to florals because of the synthetic aspect of it. Some people don't like florals, and I totally get it. I can see why. But I will say that the florals that I've experienced through this brand are not these headache-inducing synthetic florals. They are definitely very true to what they say that they have in them. So even though I'm not into florals at all, the floral quality, the quality of the oils that they use in this, the quality of whatever perfume that they do in this, the quality is there. It's very high end. I do give him kudos for that. So that's Ramon Monegal fragrances. There's a ton of stuff in his line. Definitely go check them out. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of my favorites if you get a chance to see them, and let me know what your favorites are once you get a chance to check them out. Don't forget to subscribe to this video. Don't forget to like it if you like the video. Share it with your friends, whatever. I'd love to communicate with you. I'd love to interact with you. So please feel free to chime in. Thank you so much and have a great day.